When an amazing nanny arrived, the CEO's twin daughters transformed in 30 days discover the INCR. Emma's morning began with a frantic barrage of notifications. Deadlines loomed over her, a relentless parade of emails demanding her immediate attention, and she could feel her heart race as she glanced toward the kitchen, where Lily and Grace stared vacantly at their screens. The stark contrast between her high-flying career and their stone-faced expressions weighed heavily on her. She was juggling a bustling tech startup in suburban Austin while struggling to raise her 10-year-old twins. It was supposed to be possible to have it all, right? But lately, the demands felt suffocating. Time was running out, and her daughters had started to slip through the cracks. She never meant for them to become isolated, glued to their tablets, but homework had become a war zone. Lily would hide behind her device, while Grace would lose herself in animated distractions. As Emma confronted the reality of her life, guilt gnawed at her. Was she neglecting them? The idea made her stomach churn. Each moment spent at the office felt like a betrayal, but she couldn't afford to falter in her role as CEO. Not with figures to meet, investors watching, and a company to guide through a mercurial tech landscape. The culmination of her torn emotions hit hard when her brother passed away unexpectedly, leaving a void that reverberated through her world. Grief mingled with the pressures of her job, suffocating her forward momentum. Alone in her spiral, she thought about hiring help, feeling desperate to reclaim some semblance of control over her chaotic life. Then came Maya, the upbeat nanny with a knack for adventure. Emma's relief was palpable, but as Lily and Grace viewed her as a sudden intruder, resentment rose within her. How could anyone step in and fill the gaps she felt she had created? Weeks flew by, and Emma watched as Maya pulled the girls out of their digital caves, ushering them outside for scavenger hunts or creating fantastical tales from scraps of imagination. But with each glimmer of joy the twins displayed, Emma's insecurities loomed larger. Doubts carved heavy lines across her brow. Had she done the right thing? Was she so absorbed in her ambition that she had failed them? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the girls began to flourish, the storms of her workspace crashed down. A scandal erupted, targeting her business and shrouding her reputation in controversy. The waves of accusation felt like a tidal wave, threatening to sweep away everything she had built. Emma frantically grasped for stability. But in the chaos, she found herself retreating to the shadows, haunted by the question lingering within her mind: had she sacrificed too much? As Lily and Grace's courage to stand against the rumors grew, Emma gazed at her daughters with a mixture of pride and fright. How had they learned to be so resilient when she felt so fragile? And just as a flicker of hope began to surface, a shocking truth emerged about Maya's past, a connection that could bind them all in ways Emma never imagined, just when they needed unity the most. Would this revelation disrupt everything Emma fought for or finally piece them all together? The clarity she yearned for was shrouded in uncertainty, leaving her standing on a precarious edge, questioning the very fabric of family and ambition. The tension in Emma's chest had turned palpable as the days centered around the emerging revelations about Maya. Every interaction between the nanny and her daughters felt layered with unspoken truths that Emma could no longer ignore. Over the weeks, she found herself observing not just the transformation in her daughters, but a subtle unraveling of her own identity. The whirlwind of struggle, grief, and corporate warfare had masked her own needs and vulnerabilities. In one particularly harrowing evening, when she caught herself stifling tears over an email that questioned her leadership, she decided it was time to confront Maya. It was as if an invisible thread had pulled taut, and Emma could no longer allow her uncertainty to dictate her decisions. Gathering her courage, she invited Maya for coffee after the girls fell asleep. The kitchen was dimly lit, the air thick with potential tension. As she stilled her thoughts, she decided to lay her fears bare. "I need to understand what your connection to our family really is," Emma voiced, her tone both steely and vulnerable. The question carried weight, resonating with her desperation for control in her life. Maya's eyes softened, the usual sparkle dimming as she placed her cup down.
I didn't want to complicate things, she began, her voice steady yet tinged with regret. I was your brother's best friend.
We grew up together. The confession hung in the air like a thundercloud, crackling with energy, waiting to burst. For a moment, the weight of revelation silenced Emma.
The loss of her brother had felt incomprehensible, but in this moment, a flicker of understanding blossomed.
Maya wasn't merely a nanny, she embodied a part of the family Emma had lost.
But the realization came with its own brand of anxiety. Would this new bond rewrite her own narrative? This shadow of nostalgia beckoned a wave of mixed emotions.
Emma felt vulnerable while also grappling with the potential for connection on a deeper level. What did it mean for her daughters to have someone familiar in their lives amidst the chaos? Would this intertwining of past and present lead to healing or deeper fractures? As she contemplated these questions, the memory of the girls' laughter filtered through her mind, stirring something within her. There was hope, but it equally brought fear. What if unearthing these connections disrupted the fragile equilibrium they had established? Fueled by this revelation, Emma resolved to embrace the complexity of their situation rather than shying away from it. If she truly wanted to reclaim her role as a mother and leader, she needed to innovate her approach, balancing vulnerability with strength. Thus began the preparation for a conversation with Lily and Grace, one that required transparency and authenticity. "Mommy, are you okay?"
Lily's soft voice interrupted her thoughts, pulling Emma out of her spiral.
The sincerity in her daughter's eyes ignited a new determination in Emma.
Perhaps it was time to openly confront not just her fears, but the very aspects of life she had shielded her girls from in the wake of all that had happened. The conversation would not simply be about Maya's past, it would layer their shared grief and unearth their individual fears. Each thread intertwined demanded acknowledgement. As the night wore on, Emma felt renewed resolve building within her. Yet, beneath this newfound clarity lingered apprehension. Would her daughters understand? Could she articulate the complexities of life, loss, and the possibility of rebuilding the bonds that once made them whole? With the dawn creeping in, Emma steeled herself for what was to come, well aware that the conversation with her daughters might shift the foundations of their family dynamic forever. The moment approached, heavy with potential, as she prepared to uncover the truths that could bind them together anew or further unravel their tapestry. And so, faced with the dawn of a new day, Emma exhaled slowly, ready to step into the unknown. But little did she know, the following revelation would stretch beyond family ties, challenging her professional ambitions in ways she had never imagined. Would her commitment to transparency jeopardize everything she had fought so hard to achieve, or could it finally align her personal evolution with her ambition? As the sun streamed through the kitchen window, Emma stood at the island, her mind racing. The invitation to embrace vulnerability hovered over her like a dark cloud, but something about it felt invigorating. Today was the day she would invite her daughters into the conversation about their grief and the sudden presence of Maya in their lives. Grace and Lily were already stirred, their blonde hair tousled from sleep as they absorbed the food in front of them. Their laughter filled the air, but within Emma, a tumultuous mix of dread and excitement churned. Could she unravel her struggles and confront the realities that haunted them both as a family and as individuals? A sense of urgency threaded through her thoughts as she took a deep breath, remembering how easily the shadows of doubt could collapse her resolve. She chose clarity over fear. "Girls," Emma began, her voice firm yet gentle, managing to find the delicate balance despite her heartbeat echoing in her ears. "There's something important we need to talk about. It concerns Maya." Lily's eyes flickered with curiosity while Grace's brows furrowed. "Is Maya in trouble?" Grace asked, concern etching her young face. It was a question that showed both her innocence and her deeper understanding of the shifting dynamics in their household. Emma could feel the boundary between vulnerability and strength shifting beneath her as if the very ground they stood upon was tilting. "No, not trouble," Emma quickly clarified, pulling herself back into focus. "Maya is someone I didn't expect to be in our lives so soon, and I think we need to talk about who she is and what it means for us as a family." Pausing to weigh her words carefully, she continued, "And for me as your mom." As words unfolded, Emma found herself maintaining eye contact with her daughters, gauging their reactions while simultaneously confronting her own. Would they see the woman who was struggling with so many insecurities? Or the mother who was determined to create a bridge of transparency between their shared past and emboldened future. It poured out in a mix of factual recounting and sentiment, of their brother's laughter, Maya's shared memories, and the joy and sadness that wrapped around the shadows of their home. Emma felt herself grow lighter, realizing how sharing could not only uplift her daughters but also help clarify her own feelings. But as the weight lifted, a different tension settled in. The conversation escalated with Grace, who, despite her youthful innocence, demanded to know why their father had left and how all this turmoil had affected their lives.
"Does Maya remind you of him?"
she asked directly, her honesty refreshing but also stark, as if she had leaped into the depths of uncertainty with little regard for the potential fallout. Caught off guard, Emma took a moment to collect herself.
Did Maya represent a parallel to their father?
In a way, she did. Maya had re-emerged in their lives, embodying the comfort of faded memories, but equally expanding the expanse of emotional complexity. She felt exposed, yet she held on to her drive to be truthful. "No, she doesn't remind me of your dad," Emma finally responded, her voice steady now. "But she carries memories that connect us to happier times. We can embrace what we once had instead of letting it define who we are now."
"It's okay to feel confused."
A silence settled over them as the girls processed her words.
Emma noticed that both girls seemed compelled to contemplate the implications, their eyes dancing between understanding and uncertainty.
In their expressions, she saw much of herself searching, questioning, yearning for clarity amidst chaos. The resolve to embrace ambiguity and take control over her emotional narrative felt like a pivotal moment. Yet, as the conversation drew to a close, Emma's phone buzzed on the counter, breaking through the oasis of solace they had created. An email notification from her superior flashed across the screen, an attendance request for an upcoming pivotal board meeting filled with topics that could either elevate her role or
challenge her identity even further. Just as Emma swallowed her mounting apprehension, she felt another thread of vulnerability tugging at her. Could these revelations at home withstand the pressures of the corporate world? Knowing that another upheaval lay just ahead, her determination steeled within her.
The time had come to face the very essence of her dual identity, a mother caught between the emotional needs of her family and the demands of her career. And even as she pondered how to balance the two worlds, Emma couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the challenges at work might intertwine with her newfound openness at home. She became aware that navigating these complexities would not just redefine her family but could alter the very course of her career as well. What lay ahead would require courage. Would she have the strength to encompass both aspects of her life, or would they ultimately tear her apart? With her phone still vibrating and unanswered questions swirling in her mind, Emma realized the only way forward was to confront all the messy truths waiting for her on that very precipice.
The looming board meeting weighed heavily on Emma's mind like a thick fog.
She sat in the living room, her laptop open but largely ignored as thoughts of her conversation with Grace and Lily replayed incessantly. The stark contrast between the warmth of their shared moments and the impending professional demands triggered an unsettling churning in her stomach. It felt as if she was attempting to hold water in her palms, the liquid slipping free no matter how tightly she tried to grasp it.
"Mom, are you okay?"
Grace's voice broke through her reverie. Emma turned to see her daughter standing at the doorway, eyes filled with a mix of innocence and concern. It was a gentle reminder that vulnerability had become a currency in their home, allowing for emotional exchanges that had once felt far too fragile to pursue. "I'm fine, honey," Emma replied, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes.
"Just thinking about work." Grace stepped closer, emboldened by the earlier conversation. "About the meeting? Will it be like the last one where everyone was angry?" Emma recalled the tensions that had thundered through the conference room, a familiar retreat into professional animosity that made her stomach knot. "Not exactly. This time, there are some decisions that could change everything for us." "What if they aren't nice?"
Lily piped up, joining her sister, arms crossed, voicing a skepticism that often accompanied their discussions about adults. Emma felt the heaviness tugging at her, a reminder that her daughter's perceptions also mirrored her own fears of inadequacy. What if she stumbled under the weight of these expectations? "It's my job to manage those feelings, and I'll do my best to make sure there is more good than bad," she said, but even as she spoke, lingering doubts seeped through her bravado. She had to help Grace and Lily navigate their feelings too, all while trying to emerge unscathed in her professional identity. As she stood to pour herself a glass of water, Emma suddenly wrestled with the idea of sharing the tension that surrounded her job with her daughters.
But she hesitated. How could she admit her own uncertainties without compromising their own sense of security? Yet she had just opened the door to vulnerability in their previous conversation.
Could she continue to maintain this bridge of honesty? Feeling rebellious against her inner critic, Emma sat back down, fully facing her daughters.
You know how I told you that it's okay to feel confused and scared?
Yeah, Grace replied, tilting her head, as friendly encouragement illuminated her features.
I need you to know that I feel that way too, Emma admitted, leaning in as if confiding a secret.
With the meeting coming up, I've been struggling with some big decisions.
I'll be talking about things that could affect all of us.
Lily's brows knit together, processing her mother's admission.
You mean like when Dad left?
The mention of their father made Emma's heart ache, pushing her instinct to shield them from pain.
In a way, yes. The decisions I make might create changes. But there's also a chance for something new to happen too. What if you mess up? Grace's honesty crackled in the air. Emma took a moment. Then I learn. Just like we're learning to embrace our feelings about Maya. Making mistakes is part of growing, isn't it?
Her daughters exchanged a glance, caught in thought. Emma realized they were mirroring her earlier struggle to question, to reflect this newfound dynamic challenged them all. Later that night, the gravity of her earlier reflections melded with rising inspiration. She opened her laptop and started scripting her thoughts for the board meeting. The words flowed fiercely, each paragraph an exploration of her vision, ambitions, and her desire for transparency within her workplace. Just like her conversation with Grace and Lily had awakened her courage, she felt empowered to weave them into her professional narrative. By nightfall, her plan took shape, but with it came an unsettling realization that standing on the precipice of transformation required a fierce
commitment.
Faced with both her family's emotional needs and the stakes of her career entangling further by the moment, Emma knew she was wrestling with a potential showdown not only with her colleagues but perhaps even internal struggles about her self-worth and capability. As she saved her draft and closed the laptop, Emma felt the impact of her dual journey solidifying into a determined resolve.
The questions persisted, though. Would this meeting catapult her forward, or would it be yet another challenge that rang hollow against her aspirations? The weight of these uncertainties pressed down as her phone chimed again. Another email. The sender was unexpected, an influential figure in her industry whose name resonated with both excitement and fear. She opened it, her breath hitching at the content, knowing she was standing on the edge of something profound. What had this new contact observed? And would their recognition shift the trajectory of her journey or beckon new complications she hadn't foreseen?
The following morning, Emma woke up with her heart pounding, fueled not by alarms but by the email that had jolted her awake late the night before. Her mind raced as she considered what it could mean. The tone of the message suggested an invitation to collaborate on an innovative project that could potentially elevate her visibility in the organization. Yet, the prospect was tainted with anxiety. She paced around the kitchen, the sunlight spilling in through the windows illuminating the clutter remnants of breakfasts half-eaten, backpacks haphazardly cast onto chairs. Within that domestic chaos simmered the doubts about her own capabilities. What would be expected of her if she accepted this collaboration? It felt like a reckless gamble, one that could either reaffirm her professional worth or deepen her insecurities. Grace and Lily shuffled into the kitchen, still groggy from sleep. She forced herself to engage with them, to find some sense of normalcy amidst her storm of thoughts.
Good morning, girls. What are you in the mood for?
She asked, her voice chirpier than her mood. Pancakes, syrup, and laughter quickly filled the space, grounding her momentarily. But the joy of the morning breakfast was marred by the looming board meeting and the potential partnership swirling in her mind. After the plates clattered onto the table, Emma felt a renewed determination tickling at her subconscious. Could she harness this energy and translate it into a stronger, more assertive self during the meeting? As they enjoyed the meal together, a thought struck Emma. She had begun to accept vulnerability within her family. Why not extend that to her professional life? Perhaps her strength lay not merely in avoiding mistakes or external perceptions but in embracing her authentic self. The idea of incorporating her experiences as a mother, the lessons she learned in tenderness and resolve, could transform the narrative she presented to her colleagues. Later that day, Emma sat in the quiet of her office, doubts bubbling beneath her determination as she typed out key points for the meeting.
What if she was too unconventional? Would they buy into her more personal approach?
Each word was a small act of rebellion against her own skepticism. She could weave together her competencies with vulnerability, crafting a narrative that illustrated not just data and projections but a deeper understanding of the human element in business. Her phone chimed again, this time with an unexpected text from her mentor, a seasoned executive whom she had long admired.
I heard about your potential collaboration. Join me for lunch tomorrow? Let's discuss it.
His words invigorated her spirit, and she felt a flicker of hope ignite. Perhaps this was her chance to navigate the challenging waters of boardroom dynamics with someone who believed in her.
But then the anxiety crept back in. Would he see through her facade?
The turmoil of deeply ingrained self-doubt nagged at her, reminding her of past disappointments. It was a familiar dance that threatened to consume her resolve. As the meeting drew closer and with the mentor's lunch looming, Emma became increasingly aware of the tightrope she was walking, balancing her professional ambitions with the vulnerability she now navigated personally. Suddenly, she remembered her daughters and the way their eyes glimmered with hope when she had shared her struggles with them. The reflection of their trust fortified her stance. They believed in her capacity to meet challenges head-on, to transform fears into lessons. Just as she leaned forward, ready to imbue her notes with emotional honesty, her phone buzzed one last time. The invitation to the meeting had arrived, and with it, a sense of urgency swept over her.
Emma swallowed hard, propelled by an adrenaline rush. She needed to decide, was she prepared to embrace the opportunities before her, share her vulnerabilities, and face the expectations that loomed?
The time had come for her to step closer to actualizing her ambitions, for the questions demanding answers grew louder. What
awaited her at the meeting? Would she hold on, or would her insecurities pull her back into darkness?
More than doubts lingered now, she was compelled to face them head-on.
The hour of reckoning was near, and with it might come the pivotal shift in her life. Was she ready to seize the moment?
In the shimmering haze of morning, Emma found herself sitting across from her mentor, Mark, in a bustling cafe filled with the aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the low hum of conversations.
The lively atmosphere did little to mask the turmoil within her.
As he spoke animatedly about industry trends, she struggled to focus, her thoughts tangled in a web of self-doubt and possibility.
What would he think when she finally revealed her ambition to lead the collaboration? Would he dismiss her ideas as unrealistic?
The questions plagued her, sparked by her fears that her vulnerability would be misconstrued as weakness.
Emma, Mark said, drawing her back to the moment. You should absolutely consider this collaboration. It's a significant opportunity to showcase your capabilities. You have insights that could be invaluable.
His words resonated, but they also ignited a flicker of anxiety. She desperately wanted to believe in her own strengths.
What if they don't see it that way? Emma asked, the tremor in her voice betraying her unease. What if my approach is too personal?
Mark leaned forward, his expression earnest.
This isn't just about data and dollars, it's people. Your experiences shape your perspectives. That's what sets you apart. Use it.
She sensed a shift inside her, perhaps embracing her authenticity was not only possible but essential. The prospect felt like stepping onto unfamiliar terrain. But Mark's validation empowered her to contemplate that narrative shift. Later, Emma returned to her office, her mind buzzing with the conversation.
The meeting was looming, a block of time that held both dread and promise. What if she opened up about her struggles and triumphs in parenting as a means to connect with her colleagues? She envisioned herself standing up, asserting not only her qualifications but also the lessons learned over the years. She picked up her notes and began to jot down key points that integrated her personal anecdotes, moments where she had to navigate through challenges, whether it was leading a project at work or guiding her children through their growing pains. This fusion felt right. It illuminated her role not just as an employee but as a multifaceted individual embodying resilience. Suddenly, she was interrupted by a knock on her door. It was Jenna, a colleague she often admired but hardly interacted with. Do you have a moment? She asked, her brow furrowed with concern. I wanted to discuss the project we're working on. Emma welcomed Jenna in, intrigued.
They spent the next few minutes discussing technical details, but soon the conversation shifted.
Jenna hesitated before confiding, "Honestly, I've been feeling out of my depth lately. Everyone else seems so much more capable." Emma felt a sudden kinship with Jenna's vulnerability.
"You're not alone," she responded, her voice steady with newfound resolve.
"I feel that way too. There is strength in acknowledging our uncertainties and supporting one another." As the discussion unfolded, Emma could see Jenna's demeanor lighten. It was a sweet reminder that personal connections could fortify professional relationships.
In that moment, Emma recognized a hidden competency within herself, the ability to create a supportive environment, both at home and work. With each minute, her confidence built. Sharing her fears had not only been liberating but had also strengthened her bond with Jenna. This realization reignited her determination to present her honest self in the upcoming meeting. As Emma wrapped up her day, she felt an exhilarating blend of trepidation and eagerness. The cacophony of voices in her head stirred questions about acceptance and the fear of failure, but they were overshadowed by a burgeoning belief in her voice. That evening, as she prepared dinner, a new thought began to form. Perhaps it wasn't solely about making her mark in the corporate world, it was also about paving a path for others. Tomorrow would be the day she stepped into the meeting not just as an employee, but as an individual equipped with experiences and insights, determined to foster connection and authenticity in her work. But as she finished cleaning up, a nagging thought lingered. What if her openness was met with skepticism or worse, outright rejection? The stakes felt real, and she had to wonder, was the risk to her self-esteem worth the potential reward? The morning would bring clarity, but for now, the shadows of doubt loomed large. Emma tossed in her bed that night, discomforted by the impending revelation and hopeful of the changes that lay ahead. Would she courageously rise to the challenge, or would fear eclipse her aspirations yet again? The clock ticked on, counting down to the moment that could change everything. Emma awoke with a start, the dim light of dawn casting golden rays across her bedroom. Today was the day. She dressed deliberately, choosing a crisp blazer that made her feel both confident and composed. As she secured her hair in a neat bun, she caught a glimpse of herself in the mirror, a version of Emma ready to face the world. But the reflection betrayed a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes. Breath steadying, she recalled Mark's words about connections and authenticity. That was her shield against doubt, her armor against the skepticism she feared. She would not merely present her ideas, she would invite her colleagues into her world, blending personal stories with professional insights. What if her vulnerability could pave the way for a richer conversation? The thought intrigued her, coaxing a smile from her unease. Emma arrived early at the office, the usual bustle still a distant echo. She settled into the conference room, arranging her notes around her laptop. The polished wood table felt imposing, like a thoroughfare to the judgment of her peers, yet also a platform from which she could project her narrative. As colleagues trickled in, Emma exchanged glances with familiar faces, her stomach swirling. She could sense their expectations pressing against her, amplifying each heartbeat. Then, in walked Jenna, her expression a mix of encouragement and nerves. Emma appreciated the unspoken solidarity. When the meeting began, Emma found herself seated beside Mark. His warm nod ignited a flicker of resolve within her. The discussion unfolded charts, numbers, trends, but Emma's thoughts danced between the present and her larger goal. She practiced deep breathing, mentally preparing for her turn. Finally, invited to present her perspective, Emma glanced around the room. Everyone was looking at her, curious, perhaps even skeptical. A quiet voice urged her to stick to technical details, but she silenced it. Instead, she began with a story, one about her struggle to balance work and parenting, a moment where the chaotic demands of life taught her resilience. Her voice wavered initially, but as she continued, it gained strength. "I learned that just like in parenting, empathy can drive results in our projects. Not just understanding clients, but understanding each other as colleagues." A few nodding heads suggested she was reaching them. With each shared experience, she felt the walls of doubt begin to crack. Ideas flowed, her vision for collaboration taking shape through the lens of her personal journey. The more she spoke, the more she embraced the uncomfortable truths she had long held back. Her narratives shifted the focus from the numbers to the people behind them, illustrating that success was built on connections. As she concluded, she felt lighter, the heavy burden of fear lifting like mist in sunlight. The room was silent for a moment that felt like an eternity, and then, a round of applause erupted. It reverberated through her like electricity, igniting a spark of triumph. Emma beamed, pride swelling within her. Questions followed questions that dug deeper into the ideas she presented, wanting to know more about her approach. She received feedback that felt constructive rather than critical, further enhancing her growing confidence. Suddenly, the meeting emerged not just as a platform for her ideas, but as a space for collaboration and dialogue. As she walked out, buoyed by a wave of encouragement, Jenna caught up to her.
"You were amazing," she said, wide-eyed. "You've got this capability, Emma. You really connected with everyone." Emma smiled, gratitude blossoming.
The experience was not just thrilling, it was transformative. Each uncertainty she had faced unraveled against the newfound strength she sensed in herself. But as she exited the building, that familiar doubt shadowed her again. Had she truly stepped beyond her limits, or was she still just scratching the surface?
And what if the next challenges tested her resolve even more conspicuously? Determined to progress, Emma decided to reflect on her growth. She would explore the capabilities she uncovered, but the question now loomed: how deep did her strength go?
What other pieces of herself remained hidden? The day had just begun, and the answers awaited in the thrilling uncertainty of her unfolding journey. Emma barely made it through the office door when her phone buzzed, an alert from HR.
She tapped the notification and felt her heartbeat quicken. An announcement of an interdepartmental presentation competition. The prize?
A mentorship session with the company's CEO, coupled with a chance to lead a new project. The words visibility and opportunity jumped off the screen. This was her moment. Fueled by adrenaline from her earlier success, Emma began to boil over with ambition. Yet, as the excitement surged, a creeping uncertainty gripped her again.
What if she didn't measure up? Could she truly sustain this newfound confidence?
The thought lingered, but she pushed it aside, determined to embrace this challenge. She spent the afternoon crafting her presentation. During those focused hours, she rediscovered the essence of what she wanted to convey. Her topics would blend her unique insights with actionable strategies, ideas that swung open the door to collaboration rather than merely reshuffling existing concepts. She aimed to position herself as a catalyst for change within her team. Later at home, with her presentation materials sprawled like scattered puzzle pieces on the dining table, Emma turned to her family for input. Her husband, Mike, a silent supporter through her career transitions, watched her pace.
"You've got a spark in you, Em.
Just let it shine," he urged, the warmth in his voice a reminder of her personal life grounding her resolve. The next week culminated in a whirlwind of preparation. Each moment spent honing her presentation felt like walking a tightrope, balancing her fear of failure with the exhilaration of newfound potential. Emma practiced in front of the mirror, her body language becoming more assertive, her voice steadier with each delivery. Gradually, she felt less like an imposter and more like someone who had something valuable to say. As the competition day approached, Emma sensed her anxiety transforming into eagerness. Yet, as she stepped into the conference room for the event, doubt knocked on the door of her mind again. Her colleagues mingled, chatting and running through their own presentations. Among them stood Jenna, radiating confidence.
That familiar pang of comparison gripped Emma.
Was she ready to compete with the best? When her turn came, Emma paused at the entrance, clutching her notes.
She took a deep breath, folding Mark's earlier advice about authenticity into her approach.
It's not just about what you present, but how you present it. Drawing on her previous experiences, she decided to infuse personal stories that highlighted her journey, paralleling them with the professional insights she had gained. With the muted chatter dimming behind her, she began. When I navigated my role as a parent, I discovered that every challenge was not just a burden but an opportunity for growth and connection. In this project, we too can open doors to possibilities instead of letting challenges stifle our creativity. The room seemed to settle into a collective focus, her audience hanging on her every word as she wove through her ideas. Midway, a question from the back filled the air, a challenging one.
How do you intend to encourage participation from those resistant to change?
The voice belonged to Jason, known for his skeptical edge.
The room tensed, but Emma felt a thrill of determination.
This was a pivotal moment, a chance to recognize and confront her fears head-on. She met Jason's eyes, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and resolve.
Deflecting the apprehension wasn't what she sought, instead, she embraced it.
I believe that authenticity requires vulnerability, she began, her voice unwavering. It's essential to acknowledge hesitations and build trust. When we lay our values on the table, we create a space where our colleagues feel safe to express theirs.
Emma sensed a shift in the room. Some nodded with understanding, others scribbled notes. The conversation flowed, a tide of ideas building momentum. It was exhilarating, a sparking dialogue where opposition morphed into collaboration. As she finished, applause erupted again, echoing what she had felt earlier. But this time, a new undertone lingered, a deeper connection forged not just through her words, but the conviction she had uncovered within herself. As she stepped away from the podium, Emma reflected on Jason's challenge. Had she just taken the first step toward truly facing her doubts? The question hung heavy in the air as she exited the room, already contemplating the next challenge, the final deadline for the project proposal fast approaching. Would she rise to the occasion again, or had she unleashed a part of her potential that could never be constrained? The answers loomed just beyond reach, nestled in the evolving landscape of her career like a mirage promising a shift from uncertainty to uncharted territory. Emma could feel the thrill of possibility again, but uncertainty clung tighter than before. What awaited her as she stepped further into this journey? Emma immersed herself in preparing for the project proposal, her mind racing with possibilities. The competition had unleashed a spark within her that she never quite recognized before. It propelled her not just to present, but to actualize her vision. The notes she'd taken during the presentation were no longer mere scribbles, they had morphed into a detailed roadmap. She dove into research, dissecting the needs of her team, and analyzing past projects for insights. This exploration became almost obsessive. Each new piece of information felt like a revelation, a building block for her proposal. Emma set herself a strict schedule, working late into evenings and rising early to refine her strategies. While her determination deepened, so did the noise of internal warfare. The fear of inadequacy occasionally echoed louder than her ambitions. During one of her late-night work sessions, she couldn't shake the image of Jenna's flawless delivery from her mind. Self-doubt hovered, whispering that she could never measure up. Emma attempted to rationalize it.
Jenna had experience, she was poised and practiced. But as she sat at her cluttered desk, something within her snapped. What was the point of comparison when she had her own unique journey? Each struggle brought its own lessons and insights. Determined, Emma shifted her focus back to the project. She planned a strategy to not only respond to the project requirements but to draw her team in with her infectious enthusiasm. Pulling in snippets of her personal life, her balancing act between motherhood and her career, she charted how these experiences shaped her understanding of leadership. The more she embraced her story, the clearer her proposals became. She set meetings with her coworkers, actively seeking their feedback for methods to stimulate participation and inclusivity. With each conversation, she saw a glimpse of change, a willingness to trust her leadership. Emma recalled how restorative the group dynamic felt during her presentation, and knew she had to replicate that magic as she shaped her project. Yet, as the deadline loomed, her plans began to fray at the edges. While drafting, one afternoon, she received an email from Jason, expressing skepticism about a crucial element of her proposal. The message was constructive, yet it also stung. For a split second, she contemplated scrapping her entire idea. Had she backed herself into a corner? But a moment of clarity struck. Standing at her desk, she confronted her fear. Would she allow insecurity to rewrite the narrative of her potential? Or would she take this as a challenge, a call to refine her approach? Emma chose the latter. She responded to Jason directly, acknowledging his concerns while defending her vision. This back and forth would not only strengthen her proposal, but showcase her resilience. In the days leading up to submission, Emma poured herself into adjustments. A mid-project reflection revealed her growth, her team becoming more than just collaborators, they were partners in crafting a vision together. With them by her side, Emma could feel the project taking on a life of its own, evolving from a mere idea into something dynamic. The day of submission arrived, and with it, a potent cocktail of exhilaration and anxiety. As she reviewed her work one last time, pride flooded her senses. This was no longer just a project, it encapsulated her journey, her struggles, and her strengths. But then, one final thought crept in the mentorship session with the CEO. While she craved the opportunity, doubts resurfaced. Was she truly prepared to lead in front of such high stakes? The suspense of what lay ahead tightened its grip around her. Emma took a deep breath, recollecting the advice her husband had shared. Embrace every moment, every challenge. The truth of those words resonated within her as she put forth her proposal. What lay ahead now was unknowable, but one thing was clear: the next step in her evolution was beckoning, whether she was ready or not. What would the CEO see in her? And would she be brave enough to seize the mentorship as an opening to truly unlock her potential? The answers lingered on the horizon, tantalizingly out of reach. As Emma entered the office on the day of her project proposal presentation, she felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her. The weeks leading up to this moment had been transformative. The doubts that once clouded her vision had slowly dissolved into clarity. She now recognized herself as a leader, not just in title but in spirit. In the hours before the meeting, she reflected on her family's influence on her growth. Conversations with Grace and Lily had cemented her belief that vulnerability and authenticity were not weaknesses, they were the foundation of genuine connection. It dawned on her that the same principles applied to her professional life, that embracing her story would enhance her leadership approach and set her apart in a demanding corporate landscape. As she stepped into the conference room, the air crackled with anticipation. Faces from various departments turned towards her, their expressions a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Emma took a moment to ground herself, recalling Jenna's reassuring words and Mark's prior encouragement. This was not just her moment, it was an opportunity to showcase the journey they all undertook together. She began her presentation by sharing snippets of her life, her balancing act between personal struggles as a mother and the complexities of steering a tech startup. The room was silent, hanging on her every word as she illustrated how her experiences fed into the value of empathy, collaboration, and community. As she wrapped up her initial slide, applause filled the room, a sound that forged a bond of support among her peers. Questions flowed after her presentation, curious, insightful, and constructive. Emma welcomed each inquiry, deftly weaving her personal narrative into her responses. When Jason challenged a core aspect of her proposal again, she felt the pressure rise. But instead of retreating, she leaned in. "You're right, Jason. Those are valid concerns." Rather than seeing his question as an attack, she recognized it as a chance to deepen the conversation. "Let us revisit that aspect together and find a solution that elevates the project further." The collective energy in the room shifted, no longer a divide between her and her colleagues but a collaboration aimed at overcoming challenges. Together, they engaged in a discussion that sparked creativity and innovative thinking. Emma could feel her confidence solidifying. Her belief in collective participation was no longer abstract but had transformed into action. Finally, as the meeting concluded, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Her peers acknowledged her unique approach, one that blended professional insight with personal narrative, capturing the attention of senior decision-makers. Emma's heart swelled. She had not only presented a project but also a vision for inclusive collaboration that resonated deeply throughout the organization. Later that week, she received an unexpected email from the CEO, inviting her to discuss her proposal further. Emma sensed that this was not merely a formality, it was a genuine acknowledgement of her potential. The invitation filled her with excitement. She realized she was undeniably part of the narrative she had so desperately sought to control. That evening, as she sat with her daughters over dinner, she couldn't help but share her triumph. "Mommy had a meeting with the CEO, girls," she began, feeling the thrill of confidence course through her, "and she might get to lead an exciting new project." Grace's eyes widened with admiration. "You did it, Mommy. You were brave." Lily added, "Just like Maya is brave when she takes us on adventures." It struck Emma how seamless the lessons of courage could flow from one area of their lives to another. Emma reflected on her journey. The unrelenting struggle between her professional aspirations and her responsibilities as a mother had ignited a fierce determination within her. Now, she stood at the precipice of growth and continuity, equipped with not just ambitions but a true understanding of herself. As she tucked her daughters into bed later, That night, Emma made a promise to herself: she would continue embracing vulnerability alongside strength, weaving those lessons through every venture home and beyond. The challenges of tomorrow would no longer intimidate her; she knew she could navigate them with resilience. The final flicker of the day found her pulling out her journal, writing down not just her dreams for the future, but acknowledging the journey that had shaped her thus far. With pen in hand, she encapsulated the transformation, punctuated by single phrases embodying her resolve: courage, connection, and authenticity.
Emma had anchored herself in confidence, positioned to not just conquer future pursuits but to live a balanced life infused with fulfillment both personally and professionally. As the night deepened, Emma drifted into sleep, the air thick with anticipation of what brave new chapters awaited her. Secure in the knowledge that she had achieved more than success, she had achieved a profound connection to herself. Now is the time for you to embark on your journey of transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share.